welcome to your NYCP Annual Performance Reporting Webinar. Before we get started, and we do have a lot of information to go through, let's go ahead and get this clean.
This presentation was produced under U.S. Department of Education contract number GS00F115CA with Synergy Enterprises, Inc. The views expressed herein do not necessarily represent the positions or policies of the U.S. Department of Education. No official endorsement by the U.S. Department of Education of any product, commodity, service, or enterprise mentioned herein is intended or should be inferred.
Okay. Welcome again to your NYCP APR webinar. I am Oleni Lilly. I'll be taking us through this this training. Also joining is your NYCP program officer, Donna Busso. Hey, Donna.
Hey, Olani. Hey, everyone. I'm glad that you're all here. My first cohort that I get to start with from the beginning. So I'm very excited to be going through this APR with you all.
Yeah, awesome. We're excited too. And so we have a lot of content to cover. So let's get started. I want to just sort of cover maybe some housekeeping tips. Again, there are a bunch of us, and which is awesome. I guess there's 69 participants joining. Like Sarah put in the chat, you could go ahead and put any of your questions or comments in the not hat box, but chat box, although I like kind of that hat box idea. You can go ahead and throw that in there. We do have our TA team and Donna on as well that will be responding to any of the questions in the chat. And then we will be taking pauses both to go through the chat to make sure all the questions are answered, as well as to allow you to kind of come off of mute. Again, we do have a lot of content and we will be going at sort of a quick pace. So what are we going over? What is all this content you're talking about, Oleni? Well, really, we'll be going over the cover sheet and executive summary, all the different parts, part A, part B, part C, and at the end, we'll be doing some reminders as well as reminding you of upcoming events. But the most important, and the reason why you're here, event that's upcoming is your due date for the NYCP APR. Oh boy, that's going to be a stumbler for me today. It is due April 28th, 2023. Please note this, 11:59 p.m. What zone? Eastern time zone. So a lot of us do not live in the Eastern time zone, but we do need to make sure we are noting that, because it doesn't matter if I am at 11:59 p.m. in Hawaii time, I have missed that due date by 6 hours. And so I really want to, again, make sure that you are logging that in and keeping that in mind. I would really also recommend that you make your own personal due date at least a week before, because, you know, sometimes our G5 adverb for the APR season is persnickety. And so sometimes it can be persnickety. And so we want to make sure that you have the time to sort of work out any technical glitches. So again, really want to recommend making your own timeline way in advance of the actual timeline. Excuse me. So here is that entire sort of APR seasonal timeline. Again, your APR is due April 28th, 2023. The end of the grant year for this year is September 30th, 2023. And your APR update is due October 26th. And we'll be getting into what that APR update is further in our webinar. What is the purpose of the APR? There it is in words, but I really want to sum it up. The purpose of the APR is for you to provide and demonstrate substantial progress towards meeting the approved project objectives. And that's right there in that top bullet. Also, the APR is reviewed and analyzed to assist the OIE to make determinations, excuse me, regarding substantial progress. And that has all different kinds of implications for the continuation and your work. You see right there that our OIETA team is putting in the forms. We have a whole bunch of tools for you to assist. We will be doing a follow-up email, just again, in case maybe you are missing the forms here or want to, can't find the forms after you've downloaded it. We will be including those blank forms, as well as some tools that we've created, including a checklist and also a sample NYCP completed APR that you can look over and use as a sample. So thanks again, team, for putting those forms in. One of the tools that we've created that is really helpful is the APR checklist. Now you can utilize this tool at various times of sort of working through your APR. You can look over it before you even dive into your APR to see all the things are required. You can also utilize it during, as you're completing the APR, to make sure as you're going through each section, you have, again, all of the pieces of information that OIE is looking for in the different sections. And then once you've completed everything, you can utilize it as a final checklist to again make sure that you are meeting providing all of the information that is going to be helpful to demonstrate your substantive progress. This is the landing page for G5 system, and this is where you're going to be submitting your annual report. Really want to make sure that you're aware of the scheduling. You want to take a look at what time the the G5 is open. You want to make note again of the time zone. You also want to check to make sure that if there's any upcoming updates or maintenance on this. The other thing here that I just clicked on is the help desk. And so you would be contacting the G5 help desk if you have any technical questions. Now, if you have any questions regarding your GEPRA or what goes into Section C, you will not be contacting this help desk. You will be contacting either the OIE Technical Assistance Team or your program officer. You want to be contacting the G5 help desk if you are maybe unable to upload a document, or maybe even unable to get into G5. Maybe you've completed everything, and when you hit submit, it is not submitting. And so those are the types of questions you want to direct to this, the contact information here. Also remember that the standard hours of operation are 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. Eastern time, except for federal holidays. I'm not sure if there's any federal holidays between now and the APR report due date, but you do want to check that. Also, quite often it is not operational on Sundays. So again, you want to make sure, I guess the best advice is, again, set your personal due date at least a week before the actual date, the deadline date. Again, thanks, Casey, for including all those links and that information there. You guys want to go ahead and access that, bookmark that page, go ahead and do so. Here are some other tips for a stress-free and on-time submission. You want to, as it relates to the cover sheet, you can go in now if you have, and go ahead and complete that cover sheet, download it, take that cover sheet to your authorized representative, get their signature, go ahead and scan that and upload that into G5. The reason why we really encourage you to do this at the front end is because quite often one of the barriers to either getting, completing doing a successful submission of your APR and or having a complete APR is that authorized representative signature on the cover sheet. Again, your authorized representative is not your project director. If you are maybe a new project director, you can reach out to Donna to see who, if you don't know who your authorized representative is, to see who that person is and make sure you key them in that this cover sheet is going to be coming across their desk for their signature. I know a lot of times these are head of organizations, executive directors, tribal leaders, and they are running the entire organization. And so you want to get this in front of them as soon as possible. Also, you want to utilize that APR checklist to make sure all of the information is provided and that that APR is complete. And here's a real key piece that we find, a key hint that is very helpful and definitely reduces stress in completing your APR. And that is for all of the narrative sections, you want to create a separate document to use to draft, revise, finalize your narrative, and then go ahead and copy and paste that into the document in G5. You can use your project planner as that space to create that narrative, or a Word or Google Doc, whatever you're comfortable with. Again, you can draft it, revise it, get your spell check going, your Grammarly. Once it's complete, copy and paste it into the sections in G5. That way, as you're writing, what we find that some people who don't do that and they just go straight to G5 and start to create their narrative is that G5 will time out without saving your work. And if that can be really frustrating, as particularly if you're like at the end of your narrative and it disappears. So I really, again, want to encourage you to take that tip. And it automatically will time out G5 every 15 minutes, even if you are touching your computer. And so that information all goes away. So again, save yourself some pain and frustration and create another document for the narrative sections. All right, we're going to be getting into the meat of the APR. These are all the required forms, reporting forms. You have a cover sheet and an executive summary, a section A, B, and C. When it comes to looking at, for example, your cover sheet, you want to make sure that it is the most up-to-date cover sheet. And the way you can do that is by checking this number in the top right hand of your cover sheet to check to make sure that the expiration date at the top right is 07/31/2024. That's July 34th, 2024. If you have another date there, you may want to reach out and make sure that you have the most up-to-date copy. Again, that was shared earlier in the chat. Also, you will be receiving those forms again in the follow-up email. I see Donna putting some really great information regarding the authorized representative, reminding us that only they can be the signatory on that cover sheet. Your project director cannot sign that cover sheet. All right, so let's dig into that cover sheet and all of the aspects of that. Sorry. So first, you want to make sure you are reporting and putting here the correct award number. Make sure it is your NYCP award number. I know some of you have maybe a null grant or a PD grant. You want to make sure that this is your NYCP award number. In item number 7, the reporting period is 10/1/22 to 3/31/23. Any other information outside of that reporting period will not be reflected in this report. So again, the dates here are those dates that you see on your screen for item number 7. Let's move down to item number 8, excuse me. My throat's getting a little dry. All right, so how do you report for item number 8? Now, for all of our new NYCP grantees, what you will be reporting here, you'll only be reporting in 8B because you have not had a previous year. So that's really what 8A is reporting on. You're going to leave that blank, 8A blank. 8B, what you're going to be reporting there is the drawdowns that are reported in G5. Okay, again, 8B should reflect the drawdowns that are reported in G5. 8C should be blank as well. Okay. That's pretty clear. And now when we look at item number 9, be sure that you are entering the most up-to-date indirect cost information. Sometimes indirect cost rates expire and maybe you'll have a new one. You want to make sure that you have all the details from the renewed indirect cost rate agreement. So again, please double check your indirect cost rate and make sure the information is up to date. Go ahead and complete all of the sections in 9A through D as appropriate. Also, if you have a new, maybe a new indirect cost rate, because the old one has expired and now you have a new one, you want to make sure that you are providing a copy of that new indirect cost rate agreement. Also, you want to make sure that in this section that your agreement covers this current reporting period. And what's the reporting period? It is 10/1/22 through 9/30/23. Now, some of you may have indirect cost rate agreements that begin prior to October 22nd and run after 9/30/23. That's fine. You want to include those dates, but really there might be a red flag if your due date has expired, and you might need to search around in your organization to locate the most up-to-date and current indirect cost rates. Okay. Now let's move on to item, oh, sorry, I didn't highlight that. Item number 10. So everyone should be checking NA for item number 10. All right, nobody should be doing a human subject or research on human subjects. Also for item number 11, you want to check yes, and then provide a copy of that privacy policy or procedure in your attachments in section C. So sometimes you can find those corresponding policies maybe in your employee handbook or student handbook. This is really a policy on how you are maintaining the privacy of the data that you're collecting and any security measures your organization utilizes. Again, that would be attached and compiled in your section C upload. Let's move on to the back page of your cover sheets. All right, let's look at number 12. So item number 12 is about performance measure status. In 12A for your annual performance report, you will be indicating yes or no for the question. If you click on yes, then you are stating that you have all the needed data to fully report on your project measures. If you're clicking no, then you're stating that the data is not currently available, but you will have the data in a not so distant future and will be able to indicate that date that data will be available. So for example, If you maybe, again, you have all the data, then you would click yes. If the answer is no, maybe you are reporting 999, and we will get there in section A, or you're reporting zero, well, actually just 999. If you're reporting 999, then you need to let us know when, or in the form, let us know when you will be receiving that data. That data should be collected by 9/30/23, which is the end of that of the grant year. Remember, APR updates will be due October 27th. Alrighty. Oh, sorry, I skipped ahead. Alrighty, so that was item number 12. The last item, again, we've talked about is really about getting your authorized representative, and Donna shared some really important information in there regarding your authorized representative. Remember, your project director cannot be your authorized representative. Please get their signature, and again, upload this form because again, it is one of those things that always sort of bogs people down regarding their completion of their APR. So who wants to be an APR superstar? We'll be having these questions coming up throughout this APR just to sort of check to make sure that we're providing this information clear. Also, you can ask questions along the way. So this is our one and only question that requires some math. So I really want to have you take in this screen. This is a question that's asking you, what belongs in 8A, 8B, and 8C? And since most of you are first year grantees, let us assume that this APR is for, again, the first year of a grant life or award. So what we see here on this, what we want to utilize to complete this, these questions are first, this chart here. You can see the months on that first column. The second one is the expenditures, and the third column is drawdowns. Again, a helpful hint is I want you to remember that what you're reporting in A, B, and C should reflect the reporting period, which is what? 10/1/22 to 9/30/23. I've been saying that so much that I sometimes get it mixed up. But anyway, that's what it is. And so go ahead and take a look at this and try to complete the answers in this. And a poll should be popping up momentarily. Okay, well, let's move on. So this is how I would answer 8A, 8B, and 8C. So because I'm a new grantee, I would not be putting in anything into 8A. And to figure out 8B, oh, there we are. There's the question. Well, we'll just keep moving forward. Should I hold and not give you guys the answers? I don't know. Let's see. I think I'll let you take a moment and answer that second question. What goes into 8B? That's where we're going to be requiring some math skills. Again, remember what the reporting period is. Okay, awesome. So yes, so again, you would leave it blank. Awesome, you guys are superstars. And then how did we calculate the number for 8B? So first of all, what we want to consider is the reporting period. Again, 10/1/22 to 9/30/23. So what we would see here, and again, we're only calculating the drawdowns in G5. So really the numbers that I'm most concerned about are the numbers in the drawdown column. And so basically what I would do is add November, December, January, February, March, and leave out April. Why am I leaving out April? Well, because that falls outside of the reporting period. And so the total amount I should be reporting in 8B is the 81,725. Okay, great. So for 8C, again, you should all have that blank. Okay, so that should be nothing, leave it blank. Great job, APR superstars. Let's move forward. All right, here's the scenario that does not include any math. And so we want to go ahead and take a look at this scenario. 75% of teachers will increase their proficiency in culturally responsive strategies by at least one level in 3 of 4 categories, as measured by an observation rubric. The observations are completed by March 31st. What should I mark on number 12? Yes or no? All right, I see you guys are all awesome reporting in there. This is a little tricky. Again, remember, think about your reporting period. The observations are completed when, and now I have that information. Can I report it in this APR? Awesome, great. Thanks you guys for responding. We're gonna go ahead and end that poll. So yes, you would provide that, I'm sorry. If you have all of your other measures, you would be checking yes for number 12. Because you do have the observations were completed on March 31st, and now you have some time to process that and actually report that in this APR. It landed, you came in just in the nick of time. All righty, let's look at another question related to number 12. And the reason why we're going over number 12 is oftentimes we see in APRs that there is some confusion about what should be reported. All right, you guys are on it. I don't even have to review the question. For those of you who may not be able to see the screen, maybe you're working on a smaller device. Again, 67% of students will increase their reading proficiency by at least 5 points as measured by the beginning and end of year benchmarks. The context is the beginning of year benchmarks were administered in September. End of year benchmarks will be administered in April. Do you have complete information? I see you folks are completing that. Awesome. Again, think in terms of your budget, your reporting period. Great. Again, so if we take into consideration that our reporting period ended on March 31st, 2023, then we do not have all of our data, so we would be checking no. In addition, we would be providing the date on the bottom that would reflect when we will be having that data. And that data can be received by 9/30/2023. And then we would know that that would indicate we would be seeing an APR update from you. Thank you again for participating in our APR Superstar questions. We're now at our first sort of question break. I want to just take a chat. Looks like I know our team is so on it as it relates to the questions. If anybody has a question and wants to come off of mute, we can take a pause for that. If not, let's move on. All righty, so let's move on to your executive summary. So this is the next section in your APR. It is your executive summary. It will be done with, you will have 1 to 2 pages to provide a narrative description of your program's accomplishments and highlights. Sorry, sometimes my brain runs faster than my mouth, or vice versa. And so this is really an opportunity, again, for you to start to share the substantial progress you're making in your program. Again, the maximum number of pages is 2. I want to cue you into that. Really take this as an opportunity to provide, an explanation, a brief rationale for why maybe you were not able to meet all of your performance measures. Also, any challenges that you've had to overcome. Sometimes we learn more from our challenges than we do from our successes. And so you can provide some of that insight here. Maybe you had faced a hiring delay. I know a lot of you have. You can go ahead and start to include that discussion here. It doesn't necessarily need to be the last place you put that, but definitely you might want to cue your reviewer into that. Lastly, in your executive summary, OIE would really appreciate you sharing any of the contributions your project is making to research, maybe a best practice, or any policy implications that you are working on. Maybe some trends that you're seeing within your community. A lot of times you guys are first on the ground and are able to really see what's happening and can really help inform decision-making at OIE as it regards to trends. Here's another tip. This is really a place, your executive summary is really a place where you want to do this off of G5. So either in your planner or in your in a separate Word or Google Doc. You want to, again, take time to really create that draft, revise it. Oftentimes, people will save the executive summary to last. They'll go through the other sections and utilize the executive summary as really a compilation of everything else they've included in section A, B, and C. And so that's also another helpful tip. But definitely in the writing, you're going to want to take it off of G5 and complete that, and then upload it into G5 by copying and pasting it, and then putting it into G5. So again, here's a sample of executive summary, and we'll just sort of walk through the highlights of this. Again, you want to make sure that you are writing the correlating PR number for your NYCP grant. Also, you can see here that the executive summary starts with the goal of the project. And then the project director takes time to highlight achievement or progress towards the project goals, including some data. And then this fourth bullet, you can see that the project director took time to discuss challenges as well, and made sure to give a real detailed rationale for actions that they took in response to those challenges. This is us looking further into the executive summary sample. Here you can see that the project director provides additional context for activities, including an example of a math bootcamp that they're providing. Another key piece of information shared is challenges in the data and what types of interventions or solutions the program is putting in place based on the data that they are collecting. And lastly, we see that this grantee has concluded their executive summary by stating their next steps. This is a great place to add any information around, your goals, and maybe some information that you uncovered along the way. Also, you can also utilize it to talk about anything you're doing related to sustainability. Again, here we have our next round of superstar questions that should be popping up. Again, what is and the key word here is maximum length of your executive summary. And that second question is, what if you have more information to share than will fit in the executive summary? And to tell you the truth, I don't know if I covered that. And so I'll give you, well, I'll let you see. Let's see if you guys know this already, which you may not. Oh, see, some of you got it already. Yeah. Awesome. Thank you again for participating in our APR Superstar questions. Yeah. Okay. Yes. So the maximum number of pages you can have for your executive summary is 2. However, if you can complete it in 1.5 pages, that's fine as well. Also, normally, any other additional information that does not fit in the executive summary can also be put into your section C. In our last APR webinar, we had one grantee share that in their executive summary, they put in at the end that the reviewer can find more information in section C. So they kind of give the reviewer a heads up that there is more information in section C. However, you may find space in both section A and B to provide that additional information. Again, that's why I think it's a really helpful hint to kind of complete all the other sections A, B, and C, and then go back and complete your executive summary. So awesome, you NYCP APR superstars. Again, we can take another pause. I'm going to check the chat to see if there's any questions that are left unanswered, or you can go ahead and come off of mute if you have any question. If not, we're moving right along. Okay, this is section A. We're going to be spending some time here. And the reason why we spend so much time here is this is really the heart of your APR. This is really where you are providing information to really indicate and demonstrate your substantial progress towards meeting your project objectives. So as we turn here, you can see the chart that we've provided. It has different elements, and we're going to go through those elements now. And those elements include both quantitative and qualitative information about the progress towards your objective. And so you can see here, that first rectangular box is really reflecting your performance measure. And so that would be either the language from your GEPRA measure or from your project measure. You would indicate which project measure is being reflected in that performance measure box by selecting the appropriate measure type. Again, there are 2 measure types. One is GEPRA, which everyone needs to report on and utilize the same language. The other one is your project measure. For all of our new NYCP grantees, we've been working, and you've been working hard on getting your project measures approved through your planner. And that's why we really did a push around making sure you got those completed and approved by Donna so that you can have them to report on your APR. And so those are both your project and GEPRA measures. Also, you'll be providing quantitative data in both your target and actual performance data. Those are the 2 sections. And so target really relates to what your target is in achieving that measure. And then the actual performance columns are what you are, what data that you have currently collected and where you are as far as meeting that, that target. Now let's get into what that looks like for both your GEPRA and project measures. And so as you can see, as it relates to your project measures, you will only be reporting the ratio number in the actual performance data. We should not see any numbers in the target columns, okay? Again, only ratio in your GEPRA measure. Sometimes, again, here's our favorite G5 adjective. It gets a little persnickety, and if your cursor sort of rolls over the target, or maybe you accidentally click on a box in the target column, it may require you to put a number in there before allowing you to move forward. If that happens, please go ahead and put 1/1, and that will indicate to us that G5 was being persnickety, and we'll know that you aren't actually entering a target number for your GEPRA measure. Again, your GEPRA measure will only be reported in the actual performance data columns under ratio. For your project measures, you are going to, again, include the language from your project measure from your planners, and you want to go ahead and include the target and actual performance data numbers. Again, for project measure, you are including both target and actual performance data. So what do those GEPRA measures look like? Oh, I'm going to take a pause because I see Donna providing some really great information there in the chat. Okay, great. So you don't have to worry about cutting and pasting your GEPRA measure into those boxes in G5. Donna's done that already for you. You just need to make sure you're reporting in the actual measure. Thanks, Donna. Okay, so NYCP, 2 GEPRA measures. Yay! That's awesome for you. And here they are. And so this is the way we're going to be going through, again, the way that you would be reporting and reflecting that data. So let's unpack GEPRA measure 1 a little bit, really to just clarify what you're reporting in the ratios. So here are your 2 ratio measures. Again, let's talk about them one at a time. So for the first GEPRA measure is about percentage of annual measurable objectives as described in the application that are being met. So for this measure, you are going to report on the number of unique project measures included in your APR. So these are your project measures, okay? And these are only the ones that are met. So again, you're going to go back to your planners and your project measures and look to see which ones you have met. That bottom number will be the total project objectives. So for example, maybe my project objectives, maybe I have 5 of them, okay? So my bottom number will be 5, and maybe I have only met 4 of those. My top number would be 4. But hey, maybe, just maybe, I have not collected all of my data for all of my project measures. Then I would report 999, and we'll come back to that later. For our GEPRA measure number 2, this measure is about the increase in the number of active community partnerships. So for this one, we're asking you to only report the number of new partnerships acquired within this reporting period. For this measure, everyone, your bottom number will be 1, okay? Easy peasy. That top number will be your new partnerships that you can include. Now, maybe you have a plan around acquiring more partners up until September 30th, 2023. You can go ahead and report 99 here, and then there will be a space in which you can actually share the number of new partnerships you have to date. So what does that look like on the actual form? Let's take a look. Here is a sample. So as you notice, we've already blocked out the ratios in the target section, because there should not be anything reported in that target columns, okay? Also, again, we have the GEPRA measures here, but thankfully Donna has already input that there, so that should be automatically there. The next thing you see, we have actually indicated in the measure type them as GEPRA. You really want to check this. A lot of times we see that this is not done and then everything gets reported as GEPRA. So make sure that you're really checking the correct project measure, or I'm sorry, the measure type. And then you see here that we're reporting what has actually been acquired. And so we've actually met 2 of 3 of the measures of our project measures. My cursor keeps disappearing, sorry. And we provided a detailed explanation of progress there. Also in this number 2 measure, we've identified the measure type. And then you see right there that we have, again, everyone's bottom number or denominator is going to be 1. And this grantee is indicating that they have 5 new partnerships.
And Alani, you have a question on
Mhm.
how do you define a partnership? And are the proposed partners new or those added to the proposed list? And I think Donna may have some good guidance on that.
Awesome.
So with that GEPRA, that's talking about the collaboration with partners to promote college and career readiness. Those are the partners that you're getting together, whether to come in and do a speaking event for your students, college partnerships that come in and provide some type of service, whether they're giving them, pamphlets or something to that effect. But it really has to follow that GEPRA measure. And can we go back? Olani,
Yeah, sure.
that. I should know it by heart, but that increases, it's talking about anything that increases the community collaboration efforts to promote college and careers of the students you are serving. So any of those partners that are helping in any kind of way, that have helped during this performance period, those are the ones that you're counting. If they're on paper and they haven't really done anything or they haven't done anything to help promote those college and career efforts, then we can't actually count them, even if they're on paper. Now, if they're part of your MOA, MOU, those type of things, and they're already providing something, then we can count those type of efforts. Does that make sense?
Yep.
And it
Great.
also really drives home why your explanation of progress is so important, because you're going to pop this number in that box, but you need to make sure, and in that narrative, give Donna the info she needs to understand, how did you come up with that number? What are you considering a partnership? What do these partnerships look like? So that's why we always really, really drive home robust explanations of progress, because without that, it's just a mystery number in a box.
Yeah. 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 Exactly. Okay. Awesome. Great. Thank you, guys. And so what if you do not have complete data yet? Okay, don't fret. There is a mechanism in which you can indicate that. And so you would put 999 in the actual performance data. And that really cues to us that you don't have the data now, but you will have the data by the end of the grant year. And that'll be, again, a cue that we will be expecting an APR update from you at the end of the year. Also, with a 999, you can also still provide a very robust and detailed explanation of progress, talking about the data maybe that you do have, the systems you have in place, clarifying the way in which you are collecting this data, how you define partnership, maybe your process of developing really collaborative MOUs and partnerships. All of that really great information can be put into your explanation of progress. All right, so let's move on to what this looks like for your project measures. Again, for NYCP new grantees, these are all be coming from your planners. So basically you can go ahead and copy and paste this into these different sections. Again, you want to make sure that it's word for word. Also, the next real important piece is make sure you're clicking on the correct project type, which would be project. And then including here, any kind of data as it reflects in your target number, and then also in your actual performance data, providing the data that you have collected. Also, you want to make sure that, again, you are providing a robust explanation of progress. Again, you can see, I want to go back up to this data piece. Under target, their target is 80 over 80. And what they're reporting is that 70 over 80 were actually completed. And so there are 80 students. The target was that 80 would be able to complete their financial and application forms. And the actual performance data being reported on is that 70 students were able to complete that of the entire 80. Now, that's not a bad. What we want to do, again, is to encourage you to take advantage of the explanation of progress and let your program officer know what was going on. Like, what happened? You weren't able to maybe make your target. And so what were the things you learned? What are the things you might be adjusting? Maybe you have the wrong tool to collect that information. And so you're going to be revising that tool that you want to use to collect that data. So there's a range of things that you can really take advantage of in explaining your progress. So the project status chart, again, should be really focused on any activities occurring when between October 1st, 2022 and March 31st, 2023. Any data that is unavailable now, but will be available at the last day of the grant year, you can denote that as 999. However, if you know that you won't have that data, will not be available before the end of the grant date, which is September 30th, 2023, then you can go ahead and already report on that now with a 0, okay? The 0 would be your top number. Now, that often happens when maybe something, you have maybe a SEA or LEA or a TEA or even a district report that doesn't come out till maybe December of 2023. So you won't have that data by the end of the grant year. You can go ahead and inform us in the explanation of progress. And then let us know that, we can anticipate seeing that data being reported in your next year APR. And so for our new NYCP grantees, we should be seeing that data occurring in your second year APR and being reflected there. Before I move on, I see a question. I don't know, is there a character limit, Sarah, in the explanation of progress?
Funny you should ask. So there is a character limit in the explanation of progress. I actually have a request in to the help desk to just verify that because I have had someone comment that it had changed from what it was previously. So I have a request into them. Supposedly by end of day tomorrow, I will have an answer to that, which I will email out to everyone. But yes, there is a character limit. And that's why once you hit that, you'll want to take that other information and pop it into section C. But I don't want to misspeak on the character limit. So I'm going to wait till they get me that confirmation, and then I will send it out to everybody. There's also a character limit for your project measures when you put those in. So if you happen to have a lengthier project measure, I do happen to have that one confirmed, oddly enough. It's 255 characters for your project measures. And then TBD on your explanation of progress.
Great, awesome. I'm gonna write that down, 255 characters.
Which is also just a random amount of characters.
I know. What, how did they come up with that number? Alrighty, but that's good. So I'm gonna, everybody take note of that. That's some helpful information. Great question. And again, like Sarah said, we'll circle back to you when we get that information and provide that to you. If you find that you're running out of space, again, you can always refer to section C and continue that discussion in section C. So don't limit your discussion because of space. Awesome. Okay, great. So here we are up in our next round of APR Superstar questions. And so there's our scenario. We should be having the questionnaire or the questions pop up on your screen. We really want to encourage you to complete that. This allows us to get information. So what's the scenario? The project measure is 67% of students will increase their reading proficiency by at least 5 points as measured by the beginning and end of year benchmarks. The context is the beginning of year benchmarks were administered in April. End of year benchmarks will be administered in, sorry, I messed that up. I was reading ahead. See my brain and my mouth. So reverse, beginning of year benchmarks were administered in September. End of year benchmarks will be administered in April. So how are you going to complete this data? You see the project measure there in the performance measure. What type of measure is it? Great. If it's a project measure, what gets completed in the target? How am I going to report it in the target columns? And let's just say, oh, sorry. And then let's see what will be reported in the actual performance data. Awesome. I see all of you guys responding. Thank you. Okay. All right. So let's go ahead and look at how we would be filling this out. So again, we have our performance measure there. What goes in measure type box? Again, it doesn't look familiar to our GEPRA, so it would be a project measure. What goes in the target raw number? Again, that could be your total number, what you calculate as a 67%. You could also report it as a ratio, or also report it 67% as 67%. And then how would you report it in your end of year benchmarks? In your actual performance data. Again, look at when you will be receiving that end of year benchmarks. Do we have that data yet? Probably not. Excuse me. So we would probably be reporting 999. Now, maybe we have some data collected already, and then we could go ahead and share the data that were collected already in our explanation of progress. Great job, our APR superstars. All right, moving on to what that would look like. Again, it may look something like this, where we're reporting that percentage in our ratio. So that would be 67 over 100, because 100 is the entire percentage. And again, because we do not have our data all collected, but we anticipate having it by the end of the grant year, we would report 999. Also, again, I just want to cue you in. We would, in our explanation of progress, we would be talking about, what are we defining as reading proficiency? Why we selected 5 points as being measured? Are we doing anything in between sort of the beginning and end of year benchmarks? And what is our current data? All of that stuff can be included in your explanation of progress. So just because you don't have the data now does not mean that you will not have a lot of things to share in your explanation of progress. So let's look at this other example. Our scenario here is that 75% of teachers will increase their proficiency in culturally responsive strategies by at least one level in 3 of 4 categories as measured, excuse me, as measured by an observation rubric. Sort of the context of that is that observations are completed by March 31st, 2023. And so this grantee has actually calculated that 67% is actually 20 teachers of the 30. And so 20 equals 67%. And 20 of them were able to accomplish this goal. So again, how would you complete this chart? We have already that performance measure there. What type of measure is it? What are we reporting in the target columns? And then what are we reporting in the actual performance data? Oh, great. Thank you guys for completing our superstar questions. I'll just take a couple of seconds. I see it's still coming in. Awesome. I see Donna again providing some really helpful information in the chat. All right, thank you. Let's review. Okay, so there are actually 2 different ways in which you can report this measure in the APR. Again, this is, by just reading it, it is a project measure type. You can either report that 75% in your target as the percentage, which could be reflected in the ratio as 75 over 100. And then you can see in the actual performance data, we actually have that information available. And so it would be because 67% of the teachers met that goal, it is reported as 67 over 100. The other way you could report that goal is to look at, again, putting that percentage and then actually providing the actual number of teachers who are able to meet that measure. And so you see here where, again, 30 is calculated as the percentage of 75, and then 20 teachers were actually able to meet that goal. So it's reflected as actual numbers of teachers. So it can be reported either way. Again, for both of these, you want to make sure you are providing a detailed explanation of progress, including all different types of information. And then I see Drew has a question, or just a clarifying point. We're not supposed to fill in all of the boxes in this section. It depends on how you want to best report it. we want to recommend, if you are going to report it one way at the beginning of the year, of the beginning of your grant, that you continue to report it for that way the entire life of your grant. As well as in your GEPRA measures. Oh, I'm sorry, am I reading this correctly? Only complete one data type. Yes. for each
Yeah,
measure.
Yeah,
yeah,
So,
so yeah, you'll
stick with
report
it.
on either raw number or ratio or the percentage, and the G5 will automatically, when you put something in ratio, it's gonna automatically make
Yeah.
it a percent. But you'll use one of those ways. And then like Olani said, once you use one of those quantitative data gathering ways, the raw number, the ratio, or the percentage, that's how you will use it from here on out. Just like your objectives, once those are in there, that's how you're going to use it from here on out.
Yeah.
So however you have it on your objectives or in your grant application.
Thanks, Donna. Awesome, great job. So let's take a look. You guys did great. Awesome. All right, let's move on to our last superstar question in this section. Let's go ahead and look. Again, the scenario is that 65% of all high school students will complete at least 2 semesters of native language class. Native language classes started in January 2023. Again, how are you going to complete this information? There's your performance measure in that box. Again, select what type of measure is this? Is it project or GEPRA? What am I putting into the target columns? And then what am I reporting in the actual performance data? We'll give you a couple of moments to just go ahead and complete that. And then we'll look at the example. Awesome, great. Again, thank you. Love the participation. Okay. All right, you can still go ahead and complete that. And I will move on to the response. And so what you see here is that it's reported as a ratio in target. So it's utilizing that percentage, 65% over 100. And because this, this measure will not be completed until after it is 0 over 1. So it is happening after the end of the grant year. Now, does that mean I have anything in my explanation of progress? Yes, it does. I should be talking about in my explanation of progress, definitely why I am not receiving that data until, you know, January 2023 or maybe beyond that. Also, what I'm doing in the meantime, what are some of the other activities or work that I'm doing as it relates to this project measure. Maybe I'm actually working on the assessment for this for our students or the curriculum. So I want to make sure that I am again providing some real detailed information as it relates to this measure. So just because I have 0 doesn't mean I have 0 in my explanation of progress. Awesome, great. There is some really great information. If you can't see it, that's being provided in the chat. Again, your project planner is a great place to sort of work out all of your Section A in advance and also get feedback there. Great, you guys are doing amazing. So let's move on into your explanation of progress. I know I've been kind of talking about it already, but we're going to get into the nitty-gritty of it. So when you're writing your explanation of progress, you really want to provide both quantitative and qualitative data. And you're like, well, Lenny, we just went over all the quantitative data part. Yes, but you might not have all your data, but you might have some preliminary data. So go ahead and provide that in your explanation of progress. Also, you want to include qualitative data. That could be actually input that you may be getting from surveys, from students, or from any of your partners, or even parents, or the schools that you're working in. This really gives your program officer insight into not only about whether or not your goals are being met, but also provides insight about the background and context that your program is working within. And any of the challenges that you may have had to overcome and throughout this reporting period. In this narrative explanation of progress, you should demonstrate how you met or made progress toward this measure. Also, it's a great place to talk about what are the tools you're utilizing to measure your data. And also, what do you do with that data? I know you're like, Olani, we do the APR. Yes, you use that data for your APR, but you also hopefully use it for other things that inform decision-making, making changes in your project to better address the needs of your students and also ensure you being successful at meeting all of your goals and objectives. You can also, like I said, share any information you have about measurement tools. If you're creating something and maybe you're getting bogged down in it, it's a great place to talk about those challenges regarding your measurement tool. Now, again, we heard already that there is a character limit. If your story is, too good to be missed and you really want to hear that, you can go ahead and give your reviewer a note that they can find the rest of your explanation in section C. Here's some look-fors as you are sort of working through your explanation of progress. Again, you want to make sure that it provides details about the data that you're sharing. It may be helpful to state clearly for your reviewer what those numbers represent. Do they represent like people? Do they represent events? What are you counting? Also, you want to make sure your explanation of progress is connected to the measure listed above in the data, the quantitative section. And then also you might want to make sure that you are reporting on how that data is collected and compiled for reporting. So now let's take a look at a sample of an explanation of progress. You can see highlighted here some percentages, some talking about what those percentages mean, who is taking the assessments. Here's another example showing again how many students are being served in what, when that time of maybe the activity is occurring, when maybe the placement test, that's the example here, is occurring. Talking about baseline data. So again, just really providing more context around the qualitative data you provided in the charts above. Okay, we're all the way to our next APR Superstar question. So what should be in your explanation of progress if you report 999? And the second question is, what should be in your explanation of progress if you report 0/1? We should have those questions popping up. Also, we have a third question in this round of our APR Superstar questions. And this is a really, I want to word this correctly, which is not, in all capitals, not a good tip for writing your explanation of progress. So for example, if somebody came up to me and asked me, Olani, what are your tips about writing a really good explanation of progress? Which of these items would I not tell them? Oh, yeah, great. Keep going. Let's see those responses. Again, I see that Sarah is emphasized, not a good tip that I would want to share. All right. So yes, again, I want to keep filling that out. That's great. Keep going, keep going. You see all those responses coming in? I'm going to start to talk about those responses. All right. So what should be in your explanation of progress? Again, it should be detailed. It should talk about, your data collection. It should reflect the data that you shared in the data quantitative charts. It should be as robust as those characters allow you. And if it needs more space, again, put it into section C. Also, if you are reporting 0-1, we know that there should not be a 0 in your explanation of progress. Again, robust, detailed, talking about, your data collection methods, timeline, all of that good stuff. And yes, I would not tell someone to keep their response brief and to the point. To the point, yes. I mean, we do want to stay connected to again, the measure we're talking about, but definitely not brief. Awesome. You guys are on it. So let's move on. This is related to your APR update. Now, I'm just going to give you some brief information. We will have talking circles that will be coming closer to the actual time when we are in the season of APR update time. But this is just some heads up that you may want to take note of. So your APR update will be due October 26th. It will reflect any updates you have only for section A. So if you are reporting 999 in this update, in this APR, then expect that you will be needing to complete an APR update. You can also maybe do an APR update if maybe you have inputted incorrect data in this APR update, I mean, in this APR, and or maybe you have new data that you want to share. Again, the APR update is only for section A, and that update will be submitted via email, not through the G5 system. Also, just like I said at the beginning, if you have any, we will be providing more details about that process in upcoming talking circles. That's why talking circles are really important, because we do cover a lot of this information. All right, I'm going to take a pause and check the chat, make sure all the questions were answered, and see if anybody wants to come off of mute and ask a question. All righty, moving right along. We're almost to the end. I know we're about 9 minutes from our end time, but if you just hang in with me, I think we can make it. Okay, so section B, what's this about? This is about, B is about budget. And so really this is an opportunity for you to provide a narrative regarding how and what you've been spending, when, from 10/1/22 to 3/31/23. Ideally, you would organize this budget narrative according to your the project categories. This is again an opportunity for you to talk about funds that have been expended, even if it's not reflected in G5. So remember back to the cover sheet, we only, on section A, we only wanted the numbers that were drawn down in G5. In this budget section, you can actually talk about funds that may have been obligated through your organization, but may not have been actually drawn down. That's like coming in an upcoming drawdown. in G5. So this is, you can talk about all of your money things here in section B. Also in section B, you want to make sure you are discussing your G5 drawdown frequency. So talk about whether you do it monthly, which is really preferred, or at least quarterly. Also talk about any of the processes you utilize in order to do that. So maybe you meet with your budget team, maybe once a month, maybe quarterly, and you go through expenditures, make sure what you think you've expenditured and what expended and what the budget office thinks they expended sort of are reconciled. And then maybe after that, you actually submit for a drawdown. And so share that process in this section B. Also, if you anticipate that you will have any unexpended funds remaining at the end of the project year, you want to discuss that here. This is a really good place to talk about what you might be doing to make sure that you expend all your funds by 9/30/2023. The goal is whatever amount you were awarded in a grant year, that you expend those funds within that grant year. So really, this is an opportunity, again, for you to sit down with your budget people and really look over what's going on budget-wise. Again, maybe you it took you a while to hire people. You may want to just sort of like relook at that and think about ways in which you can maybe submit a budget revision to expend those funds. If you wish to carry over any unexpended funds, you might want to indicate, but again, we are just halfway through the year. I really want to encourage you to look at ways and to expend those funds appropriately to make sure that you are meeting your substantial progress and getting those services to the students who you intended to serve. Describe any changes you wish to make in the grants activity. You can also cue your program officer into maybe an anticipated budget revision that you would be submitting. Again, here is a sample of a budget narrative. As you can see, this project director has organized it by budget categories, as well as they provided that information about, excuse me, about the process in which both the fiscal and the program team come together to look at expenditures and drawdowns and what that timeline is. Here's another example of a budget narrative. Again, you can see that we are looking at the supplies, and they're really talking about expended funds that have not been obligated in G5. Also, they talk about the process in which they do drawdowns and how they're engaged with their fiscal team. And then here you can see that they're talking about, an over expenditure on a particular item, and they're already queuing the reviewer, the program officer, into a potential budget revision. You can see that here in personnel as well. Alrighty, that was sort of our sample of a project narrative. And here is now an optional budget reporting tool. Again, this is an optional tool that you can use to report your actual expenditures. This is, if you choose to use another format, you still are required to make sure that you're including all of the different pieces of information that are reflected in this optional tool. As you can see here in this optional tool, we have yellow highlighted fields. Those are all the fields that you fill out. Anything else is actually either pre-populated or is actually a field that has a calculation that is locked. And so if you try to go in and change any of those fields, you will not be allowed to. Also, this is a budget reporting tool. And so you will be reporting on the budget category total. not only does this tool require or ask for numeric information, but it also asks for narrative fields. So there are two fields, two columns here that are actually requesting a narrative. And that's column F, which is really, you are going to be providing a rationale or an explanation of what you're doing with the available funds. And so while you have not expended all your funds up until March 31st, 2023, you can, in column F, talk about how you will be utilizing those remaining funds. If you're anticipating any carryover, you would utilize column I to explain that carryover. Again, remember, our goals are to really expend the funds within that budget year or grant year, sorry. Again, here's another example of what those narrative columns look like. As you can see here, we have a narrative in column F and I. These are only two columns that you would provide a justification and a narrative. All the rest are numeric. So here we are up to our budget, APR budget superstar questions. So why don't you go ahead, that poll should be popping up. Again, we're asking questions about whether or not you are going to be utilizing this optional reporting tool. Again, remember, if you're not, you still need to provide the same information in your format that you're going to be utilizing. The second question, do you need a section B budget narrative if you use the optional budget reporting tool? And then the third, do you need an optional budget reporting tool if you use or provide a budget narrative? So why don't you go ahead and start answering those questions. The last question for this APR Superstar question is, which columns must be completed on the optional budget reporting tool by you? You'll see a list of those columns below in the question. Great. Okay, we're at 10:30. We're almost done. If you could just hang in there for about 5 more minutes, I will get you to the end of this APR webinar. Thank you again for hanging in there. Everybody who's in the questions, really appreciate it. Oh, great. So it looks like a lot of you are going to be utilizing the optional budget reporting tool. That's awesome. So do you need a section B budget narrative? Oh, sorry, it jumped. Do you need a section B narrative if you use the optional budget reporting tool? Yes. So yes, you would be providing both pieces. Again, your budget narrative is a place for you to provide some detailed information about what's going on in your budget. And that optional budget reporting tool is to actually report on expenditures, on the actual numbers. Do you need an optional budget reporting tool if you provide a section B budget narrative? Yes. Excuse me. Again, you can utilize another form as long as you are providing the same information in that optional tool. And then for 4, what do we want to make sure that you are completing in this form? It would be columns B, C, D, F, G, and possibly I. Great job, you guys. Again, remember, columns A and E and H are either automatically there or have calculations that will provide the information required in that column. Again, thank you all. Any questions?
Oh, Lonnie, I don't have a question, but for all of you who may be new to this, and for everyone else who's not new, this budget portion is very, very important. Make sure, because we don't have to allow carryover. So we, based on your narrative, based on your substantial progress, based on if you have been in communication with me throughout this year, based on if you turned in things on time. All of these things count towards if you are going to get the full amount that you requested for year 2 and so on in the subsequent years, or if it will be adjusted. So make sure, like Olani has said, this is an optional tool to use, but it's the TAT made this tool very well, and it helps us to look at where the money has gone and if it's going to meet these objectives in your grant. So explain if you weren't able to draw down at certain times. I've emailed everyone about your Q2 drawdowns, and I'll email you again about Q3 drawdowns, and I'll email you again about Q4 drawdowns. And then in the new fiscal year, I'm going to ask you for a new budget. So all of these things have to be tracked, and use the tool that they have provided in the Google Sheets to help with all of that. So any questions about that?
Okay, we do. I've read on the DOE website that this grant is under expanded authority. Okay, that would be.
This is a 3+2 grant, so it's 3 years with the option to renew. So, but in your GAN, if you read in your GAN that the budgets and you know, years to come, the next fiscal year, it's at our discretion on if we do any budget cuts or not. But this is a 3+2 grant.
Awesome. Thanks, Donna, for providing more context and more information and how you look at it. And again, how important it is for you to communicate. And APR is one of those critical tools that you are communicating with your program officer. It should not be the only form of communication. There should not be, hopefully, any surprises here for Donna as she reviews through your APR. You know, any budget thing or maybe program challenges you're having should not be something of a surprise. You want to make sure you're bringing your program officer along. They are partners in making sure you are successful, as well as your TA team. All right, so we're moving on to section C. Again, section C is our fun section. It's a great place. I mean, not that the other sections aren't fun, but this is a great place for you to just sort of like shine and share everything that you didn't maybe have space to share earlier in other parts of your APR. So this can really include photos of your participants engaged in activities. It can be work samples. It could be, you know, an evaluation report, an assessment tool maybe you're utilizing, any and all of sort of really great information that you want to share. Definitely highlight, tell us your story of your successes. Maybe again, go into the challenges you're facing in more detail. Again, like we kept saying, like this is really a place in which you can maybe continue the conversation that you started in either your executive summary or your section A because of what is that? What is it? Character limitations. What you want to do is if you have pictures and if you have an evaluation report and if there's you're completing the narrative section, you want to sort of bundle that all into one PDF and then submit that into G5. Again, all of the things you want to share, you want to make sure that's bundled into one PDF. We also have an optional section C reporting tool here that you can, we're going to go into more detail. This is actually asking for information that's not asked for anywhere else in the APR. And this is really some helpful information as OIE looks across both its NYCP grantees as well as across its portfolio of grantees. And so we're going to dig into the different parts of this optional reporting tool. Definitely want to make sure you have your grantee name and your award, correct award number for this NYCP grant. Also, you can check any and all that apply. Maybe you're serving all of these grade levels, or maybe because this again is focused on college and career, you're just focusing on maybe middle and high. Go ahead and check all those apply. In this box here, you want, or chart here, you want to make sure you're putting unduplicated numbers here. So again, it's both unduplicated students as well as adults. That first column there is during the report period. So again, that is any number up until March 31st, 2023. And then in this final column here, you want to report what you anticipate that number will be until the end of this grant year, which is what? 9/30/2023. Also, in this next box here, you want to give us a percentage of how much time your project director is devoted to this grant, as well as the number of full and part-time employees or staff on this project. What you'll see here is in this section, in this optional form, is it's not narrative heavy. It's a lot of checks, boxes, and lists. And so this is another place where you can check off all that apply. How, at what times are you providing your services? And then this bottom box is what are the methods you're utilizing to deliver? It could be all three, or it could be just one. Just check off the boxes that apply. Also, you want to list here at the top the all the services that are being provided. Again, it's a list that you'll provide. And then this box right here that's highlighted, of those services that you provided, which one of them are maybe based in a native language or language learning services? And then what, if any, college and career readiness services or strategies have been used in your program? And of those services, which ones were evidence-based services or strategies that have been used, in your program? Okay, again, that's just a list. Here's a great place to denote all of your partners. Again, you want to include whether or not they are active or inactive. Also detail any key personnel changes. If there have been none, again, during the reporting period, you want to go ahead and say there have been no changes. If there are, go ahead and say maybe like the project director has changed, or maybe you had a change in staff, or you were able to hire all staff members. How do you plan to sustain the program activities beyond the federal funding period? Again, not a long explanation, just something short and to the point there. Describe any planned changes to project activities for the remainder of the project year. Again, maybe in the budget section, you've reported that you are going to be submitting a budget revision because you have some additional funds and you want to put it into maybe moving it from contractual into direct services for students, and doing maybe purchasing supplies for maybe a bridge summer program for your students in moving from transitioning from 8th to 9th grade. You can go ahead and share some of that there. Again, this probably won't be the first time that you're talking about it, but so you can provide a brief explanation, as well as this bottom portion here, a one sentence. What was your greatest project success? As well as one sentence is what is your greatest challenge? Okay, so that is our optional tool. Again, if you don't want to use that tool, you can go ahead and embed that information into your narrative part of the section C. But please make sure you include that information. It's very helpful. These are some other things that some of your fellow grantees have also provided in section C. And so here is our final APR Superstar question. You can go ahead and take a look at that. The poll should be popping up. We have 3 questions here, again, asking if you're going to be utilizing the tool, and then sort of digging in about like whether or not do you need a Section C narrative if you use the optional Section C reporting tool. And the third question is, do you need optional Section C reporting tool if you're utilizing the narrative? And then our final question, how would you submit Section B and C? Lordy, that's a rooster right outside. Okay, if you have any questions, I want to check the link. No, I don't see anything there. I see you folks chiming in. I'm going to move on because some people are still filling out those questions, and I will circle back. So as you get through getting ready to complete your APR, what we wanted to do is provide this chart that will show where the forms are located. And so the cover sheet as well as Section A are already located in your G5. These other forms that in the column use provided form and upload to G5 are forms that, again, we have attached earlier on and also all the way through this webinar, as well as you will be receiving those blank forms in the follow-up email. You can complete those forms and then upload them to G5. Let's circle back and take a look at our responses. Thank you guys again for completing this. Looks like a lot of you are going to be utilizing that optional C reporting tool. The section, number 2, do you need a Section C narrative if you use the optional Section C reporting tool? So that answer really is no, but you can also provide, again, if you want to show us all of the amazing goodies that are going on in your program, you can also include that in your Section C narrative. Also, if you're continuing any thing from your executive summary, you can also include that there. Do you need an optional Section C reporting tool if you use or provide a Section C narrative? So no, you don't have to. It's an optional form, but we really want to encourage you to make sure that you do include all the information that's being requested in that Section C narrative. And then how do I submit my sections B and C? Yes, I want to upload sections B and C as one PDF. Awesome. Good job, you guys. You guys are super APR stars. So now we're just sort of like heading downhill for today's APR. Again, thank you for hanging on. Regarding continuation awards, again, OIE makes every effort to process all continuation awards by the start date of your new grant year. However, these are some of the elements that may sort of hold up that actually happening. One is both the submission of this APR on time, as well as your APR update. If that is anything delayed or there's any kind of problems there, that may hold up your continuation of award. Also, if you have any information that's missing, or you are not making substantial progress, which also includes expending of funds. And so again, you want to make sure that you are moving along at a steady pace with both your activities as well as expenditures of funds. OIE will update you about any carryover requests. Remember, you should not assume that your carryover request will be accepted or approved. It is a process, particularly if your project officer is seeing that you are struggling. Although we think it's great to always have some money saved up, if you are having problems expending funds in 1 year of the grant, having more funds to expend in the next year may be even more challenging. And so it's not always great to have more money. And again, your program officer will be in communication regarding your next year award. Remember, G5 is open now. You can get in there and start this process. Only the project director is able to get into G5 and submit. So this is the time to check to make sure you are, you have your project director up to date and in there. Again, here is when that deadline is. Do not go past 11:59 Eastern time on April 28th. You can see our feedback poll popping up. You will not be able to go into G5 after the reporting deadline to revise your report. It closes. Here's another key piece of information. So as you're going through completing and uploading all of your required information into G5, each section, once it's complete, will have a notification complete. Now you might look at all of your sections and see complete, 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 and think that you are finished. No, you're not. Scroll down and you'll see a submit button. You want to make sure you hit that submit button. Once you've hit that submit button, a text box should notify you asking you, are you sure you want to submit? If you're sure and you're all good to go, then please press submit. If you don't see that text box and after you submit that, click yes, I definitely want to submit. You don't see a message saying your APR has been submitted, then it has not been submitted. If you do get a notification that yes, your APR is submitted, there is another check to just to make sure that you can fully log out of G5 and then log back in. When you look at your APR reports line item or section, it should have the date that it was actually submitted. If you don't see that there, then it has not actually been submitted into G5. Go back in and make sure you've completed all those steps and make sure you've hit the submit button. Again, if you have any problems, that would be a question to ask the help desk at the G5 system. What's the due date? April 28th, 2023, 11:59:59. Again, just a heads up, your APR due date will be October 26th, 2023. It is only on your section A. If you have any 9/9s, you can expect to be turning in an APR update. Also, if you have any data that you want to revise, you can submit that revision. Again, it's only section A, and it will be submitted via email to oie@seiservices.com. We will be providing another tip. I mean, not another tip, but more information about your APR update in upcoming talking circles, or as in talking circles closer to the APR update season. Also, there are other opportunities for technical assistance. We do have the office hours coming up on April 27th, the day before it's due, that you may want to check in. Hopefully not. Hopefully that'll be a very empty office, but that's sort of really one of your last chances to get any questions answered. Also, we will be having an all program APR talking circle on April 20th. And then if you want to have one-on-one work done or assistance, you can go ahead and click on the Calendly link that's currently in the chat for any information, and we can work with you one-on-one. Also wanted to let you know, I know you're working with students. I know you're doing some amazing things. The deadline has been extended to April 14th for the student artist competition. Again, 3 ways to get to participate, either through art, any kind of medium, writing, and or a video. Get those amazing, talented students' work in. Also, again, just a heads up, your project director meeting will be occurring June 6th through the 8th. Project directors are required to attend, but you can invite your entire team. Thank you all for your time. I know we went over time. I really appreciate your patience. That was a lot of information. Here's your contact. We're here to help. And thank you. Have a great rest of your day. Aloha.